start of your weekend. I hope all goes well with you. Yes, indeed. Let me just get back to the full cam here on YouTube. We are back live on IG and YouTube. A bit of controversy around these parts here on Talk Talk Live, as the Instagrams of us, the Instagrams here, literally shut us down. Yeah, they shut us down on our last show, the Kanye West show, in his interview with DJ Academics not speaking to speaking the language of the powers that be, the LGBTQ and feminism. So, anyways, so therefore we were shut down, unfortunately. But again, it seems that it was a misunderstanding that we managed to clean up, and now we are back on Talk Talk Live, ladies and gentlemen, here to bring more mirth and merriment. It is a Friday night, so we're going to try and get through this as quick as possible, as I have things to do on a Friday night. Yes, I am a man of leisure. Even though I have a girlfriend, but still, I'm still a man of leisure nonetheless. And we are here on Talk Talk Live, and we're going to be speaking of So White, so woke, and now so broke. Yes, indeed, Snow White. I wanted to wait to do the show until we finally got the final numbers, but and we can finally call this patient. That is the movie, the remake of the Snow White classic, dead, and it is indeed dead, ladies and gentlemen. It is one of the bigger flops in Disney history. A Disney, legacy piece. One of the greatest stories out of the Disney movie stream. The granddaddy of them all, the first animated feature of all time, Snow White, out of 1937, who was, it was remade in 2025, and to the peril of Walt Disney, the person who started up Disney Studios. He never wanted a remake of the show. This was his baby. This was his number one child. This was his all and everything. He put everything into the show, and now it's seen as classic. It's classic canon. However, unfortunately, in 2025, once feminism got hold of it, all hell's broke loose. So let's get into that here on Talk Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Sponsored by Dun Talk, DUNTALK.com. And we're going to get right into this, ladies and gentlemen. Let us not waste time. Let's not mince words. We're going to the browser. We're going in here. No wasting time. No hesitation. No hesitation. We're going to go first to Patrick CC, doing wonderful things on YouTube streets. He gives a wonderful background and foreground on this on the movie Snow White, and on its star Rachel Zegler, and how indeed one star and a few bad moves on the part of the producers and the studio heads of Disney made a honest to goodness classic into one of the bigger flops of the 2020s. To be fair, this will be looked on in future usage on what not to do on how to promote a film, what not to do in terms of turning a classic into a flop. Let's get into this here on Talk Talk Live. Thank you very much for joining me on a Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
White would be an abysmal failure. They ignored the warnings and instead made every wrong decision possible, leading to a box office bomb. Theaters around the world are empty. The film sold 50% less than they projected. It earned a 1.6 out of 10 star rating on IMDb, a 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The CGI dwarves will give you nightmares, and the little people they replaced with CGI have filed a class action lawsuit against Disney. Walt Disney himself is turning in his grave because he personally requested that the company should never change, alter, or remake Snow White, but they did it anyway by casting Rachel Zegler, who insisted that they change the entire film to make it more politically correct. Rachel called the original Prince Charming a stalker, insisted that Snow White was not yearning for love, but actually dreamed of being a leader. Rachel also demanded she be paid more for, quote, standing in a dress for 18 hours. Zegler created so much controversy that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for her co-star Gal Gadot because of the countless death threats she was receiving. This movie is an absolute dumpster fire, and Rachel's response to the film bombing proved that everyone's suspicions about her were correct.
I'm a narcissist.
And yet none of that has anything to do with why people were suspicious about Rachel Zegler in the first place. In 2018, Rachel's friend sent her a tweet.
So yes, indeed, we're gonna get back into the background of Rachel Zegler herself. As you see before you right here, shout out to Patrick CC doing wonderful things in YouTube streets, up to 2 million subscribers. This guy and his biographical depictions of current social and economic ideas and social constructs of our time has really boomed on the internet. So shout out to Patrick CC doing wonderful things YouTube streets, and like and subscribe to him. And his depictions are world class, to be fair, in my opinion. Let's get into this. Let's get into the background of Rachel Zegler first.
About an open casting call for Steven Spielberg's film adaptation of West Side Story. So 16-year-old Zegler recorded and submitted an audition tape.
Bernardo and Anita argue all morning about a fight that's gonna happen tonight.
Now, she was definitely a promising young talent. She spent her childhood acting in countless plays and developed an impressive singing voice. Rachel was just one of 30,000 who auditioned for the role of Maria. Without any professional acting experience, an agent, or connections in Hollywood, she was selected for the lead role. Her performance earned critical acclaim, and she went on to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The industry plant accusations were formed because some people simply do not believe that a no-name actor could get this lucky. She was basically hand-selected by Steven Spielberg. Then again, with the entertainment industry being flooded with nepo babies and people born into immense wealth, Rachel being essentially a random girl from New Jersey securing an A-list role actually might be a step in the right direction for Hollywood. However, they may have chose the wrong girl. Because
yes, they did. They did indeed choose the wrong girl. There's always the saying, you can have too much too soon. And that is definitely the case of Rachel Zegler. She's only 20 years old, might I add, ladies and gentlemen. So, but she was never in that Disney sort of pipeline set of stars who were introduced at 9 and grew in the business and named themselves through the studio and then struck out on her own through a massive amount of hype and hyperbole. This is a lady who is a honest to goodness, good luck and feel good story. She had made herself a name of herself in the West Side Story movie that Steven Spielberg directed, and she was on her way to stardom. Then she got Snow White, and the rest, as they say, is history. Let's find out about the history, shall we? Let's go.
As her inability to keep her politically charged opinions to herself started to cause problems for Disney executives. As if West Side Story wasn't already a massive introduction to Hollywood, her next role was even bigger, one that could set her up for a lifetime of success. And that was being cast as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake of the classic. Rachel chose to make this monumental announcement on Twitter where she wrote, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." Rachel
not exactly the best way to start out your life as Snow White, but because this is canon that a lot of my Caucasian friends would hold very, very most dear. So for her to go through with that sort of tweet didn't hit the right notes. But again, it was no movie back then. But hey, let's see what happens next.
Deleted this tweet shortly after sending it out to the world. However, the reason she brought up her skin color in the first place was to address the criticism she was receiving online. In the original fairy tale and the 1937 animated film, Snow White is depicted as having skin as white as snow. It is quite literally the inception of the princess's identity. But Rachel Zegler is of Colombian descent and has more of an olive skin tone. Now, there definitely were some extreme takes, suggesting that Disney is evil and only only casting POC characters to cause outrage. There were also some blatantly racist takes, but most people were just genuinely confused why Snow White wasn't going to be white, and this does seem to be a recurring theme for Disney these days. The original 1989 animation of The Little Mermaid depicted Ariel as a white woman, whereas the 2023 live-action remake cast Halle Bailey as Ariel, who is African American. And yes, this film was also accused of pandering, trying to change something that was a non-issue in the first place. However, defenders pointed out that mermaids don't have a race because they are not real. Normally, these controversies lead to failure, but the film grossed over $560 million worldwide and made a solid profit. But Zegler insisted that the Snow White remake was based on an alternative version of the story, one that doesn't have to do with her skin color. She said, "It fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, and so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are." And
so again, that is a lot of spin there by the studio heads for believe me, a movie and for an idea which, to be fair, Walt Disney, not exactly the most woke of / non-racist of individuals. Walt Disney was well, you can read up about Walt Disney. He wasn't exactly the most tolerant of characters, to say the least. And when he said that he wanted Snow White to be as white as snow, he meant it. He really, really meant it. And this led to a whole generations of people who saw Snow White as white and only white. So therefore, this little spin here angered a few people, as would any other depiction, as was stated by the Little Mermaid, being black, and for mermaids having no color. But again, one thing that the star did not do is speak out of turn about the movie. It did not, and it didn't hurt, and that didn't hurt its box office because again, it fed into the film, and the film eventually became a solid success. That is The Little Mermaid. However, in this case, she sprouted off of the gums a bit too much, and well, you'll find out.
While this may seem like a small nuance that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, it was an insight into the major changes that were coming next, because the more Zegler talked about the film, the more it seemed like it was going to be a disaster, particularly in this Variety interview where she talked about how she and the writers are giving Snow White a modern twist.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow.
So, pal, here we are. Shout out to Gisato. Long time no see, buddy. Great to see you again. Yeah, the feminist ideal started coming up, and what was considered a conservative sort of film, in which it was a sort of a woman who helped, who was considered a heroine of the 30s, who was waiting for her Prince Charming to come, and actually sang about it. Well, it did not play as much, and Rachel Zegler played that up to the hilt, in which she wanted she didn't want her the Snow White character to be one who was saved by the prince and was looking for true love. She wanted her to be a boss B, and wanted to be a heroine unto herself. Messing with canon, and when you mess with canon can strike back, and people will remind you of that. So let's continue with this.
Snow White dreams of being a leader? Why not write a totally new story instead of remaking the old ones? It has nothing to do with Snow White. Zegler, there is nothing wrong with dreaming about true love. But people were not overreacting in the comments. Zegler supported stripping this classic story of its roots.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel's tone
Yeah, that's not exactly a good thing when you consider Prince Charming to be a stalker. Well, we are part of the Instagram age, aren't we? We are part of the age where women believe that most men are dreaming of them, and those that don't fit a certain depiction, well, they are considered stalkers. Again, she is 20 years old, so anybody who does not fit the ideal prince is a stalker. So, it fits in with the time. She is playing up to the times, ladies and gentlemen. And, it's, as I said, when you mess with Cannon can strike back. Clearly. And she'll live to regret those statements. Let's continue.
might come off silly to some, but it is evidently so sarcastic. Referring to Prince Charming as a stalker is inaccurate and disrespectful. We are not talking about just any Disney film. We are talking about the first ever full-length animated feature film in history. This is quite literally Walt Disney's baby. Now, people are already a little apprehensive towards the countless remakes of old Disney classics, but Rachel's lack of class and grace pushed anyone who was even a little open-minded away. Despite that, she continued to express her disdain for the original film.
I was scared of the original cartoon. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
What's interesting about Rachel claiming to be scared of the original film is that she also said the exact opposite during her press tour, showing pictures of her as a child in her Snow White dress and how she always dreamed as a little girl of being this princess. This constant flip-flopping along with her sarcastic tone just soured people's perception of her. But not only...
Yeah, it's for you to basically diss the movie that is paying millions of dollars, that is a classic that most people hold most dear to their hearts. Believe me, Snow White has millions upon millions of fans. For you to tell them that Prince Charming's a stalker, she dreaded watching it once and never wanted to watch it again. She saw, and she wanted, she wanted not to buy into the true love theme, but wanted wanted Snow White to be a boss bee. That's going to hurt people. That's going to hurt a lot of people, especially of a certain age when this came out, especially the baby boomers and the Gen Xers and many people who grew up watching Snow White. And you can't do that. You literally can't do that. You're sending, as you say, you want to be you want to be Snow White growing up, and then you turn around and literally slap people's faces by saying, you know what, I didn't like the depiction of Snow White. I didn't like the cartoon classic. I think the Prince Charming was a stalker, and I want Snow White to be a boss bee. That's going to hurt a lot of people. But again, she doesn't stop here. Let us continue. This goes on. This goes on, ladies and gentlemen. She's not done yet.
Not only did she seem unappreciative of a Disney classic, she also made some interesting comments about her next role as Anthea in Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
While yes, even actors have bills to pay and need a job to do that, some interpreted the remark as snarky and annoying. Now, to be fair, later in the interview, Rachel does go on to express her gratitude for receiving this role, considering it was only her second Hollywood film ever. But her unapologetic attitude on the red carpet continued to stir the pot, and she just kept making it worse, specifically during the writer's strike of 2023. The Writers Guild of America represents thousands of writers in film, TV, radio, and online media. They are the backbone of Hollywood's content. Despite their importance, Hollywood executives restructured the industry to drastically reduce residual payments, leaving most writers with little to no income after their work is uploaded to apps like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, etc. So the Guild went on a strike to renegotiate and push for higher pay. Rachel Zegler also used her voice to support the strike.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She's like everything people hate about this generation distilled into a single person. At this point, I'm sure you are noticing a pattern. While we hope that deep down Rachel's intentions are pure, and we hope that she truly is just trying to have an overall positive impact on the world, she has a terrible way of expressing her opinions, as her tone often comes off as disrespectful. Having two movies.
There you go. I mean, I said I was watching this and I was saying, yeah, she's coming up. She is this feel good story of a woman who's not a part of Hollywood, not a part of the Nepo baby phenomenon, who made good. However, she's acting just like a Nepo baby. She feels entitled and she wants to get paid more for her online streaming. She feels that the canon that is Snow White was cringeworthy and she didn't want to watch again. She felt that again the Prince Charming was a stalker and shouldn't have received the kudos that he did, and wanted to change the storyline to a Snow White in which who was not of the driven snow and who was left out in the cold and was Snow White due to the weather rather than her skin, and she wanted to consider her a boss bee, single, independent, and could lead revolutions and not be a part of a trope of romanticism and of conservative values. She's doing well. She's doing very, very well for a woman who, you will see, was paid very handsomely for this role. Let's continue.
Movies under her belt and already aggressively demanding higher pay came off extremely entitled, especially considering the strike was mostly for writers, because main characters, like Zegler, are often compensated extremely generously. By this point, her reputation was at an all-time low, and there were even rumors circulating that Disney was going to axe this film, as countless people expressed that Rachel Zegler is the sole reason that they would not go to watch the movie. But then somehow, Disney managed to make things even worse. They announced that they would be changing Snow White's 7 dwarves to the more politically correct Snow White's diverse group of magical creatures of all sizes and genders. Photos of the cast were leaked onto the internet, which sparked outrage. These look like medieval times reenactors at the local fair. Disney quickly responded and said that these were not pictures of the actual set, but nobody believed them. The only reason Disney planned on changing the dwarves in the first place was because of a comment made by Hollywood star Peter Dinklage, who felt that the new rendition of the movie was not progressive enough.
I was a little taken back by the they're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White
yeah.
and 7 dwarves.
Sure.
So you take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I know. That makes no sense to me.
Well,
you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Even though Peter Dinklage has built an illustrious Hollywood legacy with countless roles as a little person, he seemed pretty upset with Disney. They promptly responded that they would avoid reinforcing stereotypes and would be consulting with members of the dwarfism community to make the 7 characters more inclusive. Most people just looked at this as Disney once again pandering to another social issue, but what often happens when trying to please everyone for the sake of being politically correct, you end up pleasing no one.
What they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
Disney was panicking for a...
Yes, indeed. It seems that Peter Dinklage misspoke. He thought he was speaking for little people everywhere, when in fact he wasn't. What he was doing was, taking a prime role for little people, and in which they can show off their talents in a major motion picture, in a major piece of IP, and they turned around and you'll see what they do next. But they did not feature little people in the role, and that is a shame, because again, this is one of the few roles in which little people could be featured at full length for a enduring amount of time in a timeless classic. So that so the people can see their virtues, the content of their character, and their and platform that they are indeed equals on the stage with everyone else. But they did not get that opportunity here. So it was an own goal by Peter Dinklage, thinking that you shouldn't be producing little people here and seeing them as dwarves when, in fact, that's exactly what you should have done. That's exactly what how things should have been depicted, and Disney was made to pay the price. So this is not all on Rachel. This is not all on Rachel, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
Solution to make both sides happy, and nobody could have predicted how bad their solution to this problem would be. Instead of casting real actors, Disney decided to eliminate them and use CGI dwarves instead, which will provide enough nightmare fuel to last you the rest of 2025. The dwarves look like scary monsters, not cute, charming friends. The overuse of CGI in this film allowed them to take shortcuts. Instead of creating detailed artistic sets and costumes, they relied on animation, which made the film feel cheap, hollow, and soulless. Like, wasn't this supposed to be a live-action remake? Where's the live action? Why is there so much CGI? Why does it look like a really bad cartoon? Additionally, the significance of the dwarves to the story was drastically reduced. Grumpy and Dopey got a decent amount of screen time, while the other 5 dwarves were barely shown enough for the viewers to be able to distinguish them from one another. Ironically, all of these decisions were made to avoid backlash from the dwarfism community, and now the little people who were removed from the film are now planning a class action lawsuit against Disney for replacing them with cartoons.
Yeah, you gotta laugh at that, ladies and gentlemen. For a production company that's trying to be woke, that's known to be woke, that's been very progressive in its outlook and how they do things, they had an own goal on this one. And an opportunity to help feature little people. They didn't feature little people. This is the prime opportunity to finish little people. So not only do you have egg in your face, but also you're facing a lawsuit from little people. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
This is so ridiculous. Actress Allie Chapman, who is 3 foot 8 inches tall, said, 7 talented little people actors could have played these roles in the live-action remake, and yet they chose to use cartoons. It's an insult and discriminatory. You ever see one of those tragic situations where it's extremely foggy and there's a traffic jam on the highway, and you have cars speeding into the fog, just crashing into each other? That is this film.
Yes.
And surely it couldn't get any worse, right? Wrong, because now there was a major dispute between the 2 stars of the film, Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. Fans noticed sometime between 2023 and 2024 that Gal and Rachel may have developed some tension. As you can see in this interview, Gal is being professional, looking and smiling while Zegler is speaking. But whenever Gal is speaking, Zegler refuses to look at her, often looking down at her feet or off to the side. Their body language screams that there is tension between them, and these assumptions would be proven true. When Disney released the official trailer for Snow White, Rachel thanked the fans for their support, receiving over 120 million views in 24 hours. She used that big moment to make a political statement. And always remember, Free Palestine. While some saw this as an honorable act of solidarity, others interpreted it as a jab at her co-star. Gal Gadot is Israeli and even served in their military. Gal has been outwardly supportive of her country, specifically posting support for the IDF and civilian hostages taken during the October 7th Hamas attack. Almost immediately, Gal began getting a concerning amount of death threats. Things got so bad that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for Gadot. One of the Disney producers, Mark Platt, flew from Los Angeles to New York to have a personal crisis talk with Zegler. Platt had to remind her how much was at stake with the movie and her career before asking her to post heedfully. The son of the Disney producer...
So, before we get into the aftermath of this, yeah. If things couldn't get any worse, they launched themselves into a very, very heated, very contentious war happening half a world away in Israel and in the West Bank. Yes. It seems that Rachel could not be apolitical in this instance. and promote the film, she had to launch herself into the war in Palestine by supporting its people. Now, again, in most other instances, this would be not a big deal. But for a huge production such as this, and to go against originally Gal Gadot, who is indeed Israeli and who has served with the Israeli army, that is suicide for a film. That you are going against your co-star with a contentious war happening half a world away. It's just, you couldn't make this stuff up. This girl couldn't keep her mouth shut enough so that she could move forward, so that this could be a successful production. She single-handedly wanted to sink this film, by doing some very foolhardy and very, very rookie mistakes with regards to promoting a film. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. You don't kill a movie that is paying you millions upon millions of dollars. And it's earth-shattering how this woman was allowed to get away with it. But you'll see what happens next in terms of what they needed to do in order to keep this promotion of said film afloat.
The producer was criticized online for his father trying to reprimand Zegler, to which he responded, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged."
Yeah, guys, if there's any way you want to, that encapsulates these two paragraphs encapsulates all the wrongs that Rachel Zegler perpetuated in this film. You can't speak against a multi-million-dollar production. This production that in some estimations go up to $400 to $500 million in order to. This was Disney's comeback, literally Disney's comeback of a film, and you decided to sink it by not only belittling the story, the cast, but also featuring a war in which, if you know about them boys, they were all over with regards to the production. It was, but again, despite the war, despite how she felt, it was asinine for her to come in and speak against one of her co-stars, the sensibilities of one of her co-stars. It is literal movie suicide. And to be fair, despite the dwarf issue, Rachel Zegler has to take responsibility for this. And now you can see the studio was finding a scapegoat, and they found one. It was Rachel Zegler. Let's continue.
Now, Rachel Zegler cannot necessarily be held responsible for the actions of other people. After all, her and her co-star are doing the exact same thing. They are just expressing support for opposite sides. But all of this could have been avoided if they just left politics out of a children's movie. But Zegler was insistent on making her political opinion heard at any opportunity she could.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
And what better time than immediately after the election of President Donald.
This girl could do no right. Literally do no right. She kept falling into pitfall after pitfall, simple mistake after simple mistake. Now she's going after single issue politics, such as the U.S. election, while promoting the film. The film isn't even out yet, people. The film has already been set to debut in March, as was already stated. She sinks it again. All in the lead up to the film. They're trying to, and I think they're pushing back in order to, minimize their mistakes. But at every beck and turn, she is again speaking out against the fans that were literally coming out to see this film. Conservative fans. They want to see a princess saved by a prince, looking for love, live happily ever after, and she goes after their core audience, those of conservative views. You couldn't make this stuff up. This is textbook. This is exactly how you sink a film. You take world politics, you take woke ideas, you take feminist ideas, and you mix them all up, and you get what you see at the box office. And everybody is shocked at the fact that this movie made no money. Sorry, it didn't, because somebody in their infinite wisdom decided that their views took precedent over the film's promotion. Which is fine, but when this is a huge Hollywood production, the writing's on the wall. Let's continue.
Donald Trump. She posted on her Instagram story, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in." She doesn't have a daughter, by the way. "Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I am here with you. To cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." This sent the media into an all-out frenzy, particularly conservative media, who were shocked that Disney was allowing their star to publicly condemn half the country.
Hello, Disney.
This is their core audience. This is the audience that Disney is seeking. Conservative, those of conservative ideals who want to fall in love again. They want their Prince Charming. And who do you have up top? A woman who's literally insulting their leader. For better or for worse, it's their leader right now, and you cannot do that. But Rachel does not see the forest for the trees and keeps making these mistakes. So Megan's gonna tap her on the wrist for it.
You're gonna have to redo your film again, because this woman is a pig, and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Rachel finally crossed a line. Disney was officially fed up with her and decided to take action. First, I'm assuming...
Well, you'll find out about Gina Carano in a bit. Just a bit. Gina Carano from the Mandalorian canon, that is another Disney production. You find out part of the Star Wars film. You'll find out about her in a bit, and how there's somebody's paying favorites here. Let's continue.
They made her apologize because she redacted her comments she made about the election. From there, Zegler reportedly began working with a social media guru paid for by Disney to vet any posts before the film's March 21st debut. They essentially had someone monitoring her social media so she wasn't able to sabotage the film any further, but the damage had already been done. The film officially released in theaters worldwide on March 21st, 2025. There was a slight chance that all this negative publicity would actually draw more attention to the film, increase ticket sales, and lead to a successful debut. Unfortunately for Disney, the opposite happened. Fans knew this movie was going to suck way before it ever released, and no matter how many professional critics on Rotten Tomatoes are writing positive reviews, the fans have made their statement with a lack of support. And as a result, Snow White has suffered a disastrous opening weekend at the global box office, earning only $87.3 million worldwide, which sounds...
So again, you pan the storyline, you pan the canon, you pan your co-stars, you don't use dwarves in it's wrong characterizations, wrong casting, or no casting at all. You speak about world issues and politics as if nothing's wrong with it, and now the pièce de résistance, you get bad reviews. This was a clusterfuck that was coming. It was coming and it's here. I just waited for the final dust to settle, but you can call it. This is a flop. Let's continue.
Sounds like a lot until you realize that it had a staggering $250 million production budget, which some reports suggest is actually closer to $300 million after reshoots and marketing costs. That means they had a whopping 70% loss, making it one of Disney's biggest box office bombs in recent history. This performance is nearly exactly the same as The Little Mermaid. It had the same budget and had a very similar opening weekend. However, The Little Mermaid was actually a pretty good remake with positive reviews. Fans later decided to give the movie a shot, which resulted in a $569 million worldwide box office earnings.
Thanks, no doubt, because the star of The Little Mermaid took the high road and shut the fuck up. She shut up. She promoted the film. She did her best. And guess what? It was not a bad film in and of itself. Good storytelling. Good money. For a storyline that was changed, that was originally white, that was panned, it shows that you can still make money if you stop making silly, asinine, childish, self-centered errors.
But due to the overwhelming agreement for people who actually watch the movie that it sucks, and then people straight up boycotting, I don't think Snow White's gonna get a second wind. This is a bomb. And Rachel Zegler's response to the box office failure was nothing short of delusional.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
People will wait in line to see me. Shout out to Chanel. People will wait in line to if that is not the height of arrogance, pretension, utter obliviousness to what's around you and what has happened, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. This girl has clearly not learned humility, and she's paying for it. But she sees herself as a historic painting, and people will come to see her again. Well, let's find out about that. History will be the great teacher in that. Let's go.
People who already thought Zegler was a narcissist have officially confirmed their feelings after seeing this statement. They suspected she was trying to make this film about her. They suspected that she did not care for the legacy of Disney and that all she wanted was the spotlight for herself. And honestly, this response makes it seem like those assumptions are now justified. But it's a confusing response because the film was a massive flop. Like, essentially she's saying, haha, my movies are so great, you just have to line up and you have to watch them. But that's not the case. People are actually not waiting in line for this film specifically because of her. And as easy as it is to continuously blame her for the failure of this film, it's only fair to admit that Rachel Zegler's performance was actually decent. She is a great singer, and she definitely performed well considering most of what makes the film actually bad was outside of her control. Like most Disney live-action remakes, Snow White just felt a bit bland and lacked the magic of the original. The CGI looked cheap, the colors are dull and boring, the evil queen didn't feel very evil at all. These remakes often struggle to capture the same charm, making them feel like a corporate cash grab. But since Disney will lose money on this film, perhaps they won't make this same mistake going forward. But the biggest learning lesson for Disney here is that the internet outrage is not fake. When people say, hey, your main character is insufferable and I will not spend my money to see this movie, they're not lying. When people say they genuinely want politics to remain out of a children's movie, they are not lying. And when people say it's better to just invent new stories instead of alter the classics, they are not lying. The people won, but the truth is, this film should have never been made. Walt Disney himself was extremely protective of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This was essentially his baby. Walt reportedly rejected multiple ideas for sequels, including a proposed short called Snow White Returns, and was adamant that the original story should not be altered or expanded, as he believed Snow White was a standalone masterpiece that should remain untouched. And it's extremely evident that Disney should have honored their creator's one wish.
Excellent points raised there by Patrick CC. Doing wonderful things in YouTube streets. Shout out to Patrick CC on this one. Yeah, absolutely. This should have never been touched. This should have never been made. This was a disaster from the start. And that started with the casting of their star in the leading role of Snow White. Yes, there were casting issues. Yes, yes, there were, the storyline wasn't told in the proper way. But the number one reason why this movie fell, because of one person, unfortunately. And it fell on her very slight, very dainty 20-year-old shoulders. And she's got to learn a lesson here. She's got to pay a price. She has got to pay a price for this. And that is you do not bite the hand that feeds you. You do not hurt a production in which will make you a huge star. Now, it will be very, very difficult for any big studio to trust Rachel Zegler again, because she will speak out of turn and she can end a production. Could she be a co-star for life or a character actor? Maybe. But I think that'll be her future for the next 5 to 10 years. No doubt. We have a few. Thank you very much to Patrick CC doing wonderful things in YouTube streets, and it was a fabulous depiction here. Before we get into the next video, quickly have a few comments here from Lana BK. The same unfortunately happens for those with disabilities, i.e., Dr. Sean on the Good Doctor, casting on an able-bodied person on Glee to play Artie in a wheelchair instead of finding highly talented, differently able actors. Yeah, absolutely. Lana, you are absolutely right. It happens all the time in Hollywood. But again, this is more of an own goal because it was a person from the group itself who said, don't cast little people in the role of little people. And since Peter Dinklage is a very successful Hollywood actor, they follow his lead. They say, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't cast these people here. So let's just CGI this up. But they did not. Little people, like all other people, are not a monolith. So therefore, for them to take his word for it and cancel 7 acting roles, which could have enhanced the film, could have made it that much better, and probably saved the film. They didn't do that, and for that they were made to be punished and also suffer a lawsuit at the same time. So that is an own goal by Disney, an even bigger own goal because they did not see it in their right mind to take their woke ideas and actually cast characters who were little people in the roles. That is the ultimate in woke. you'd think a woke studio would actually cast these people in this role, but again, common sense ain't common, right? Anyways, is Ziegler an Israeli name? No, she is Latina. She has come out in efforts that she is Latina, although she could be from that part of the world in some way, shape, or form. Maybe on her mother's side or her father's side. But again, no, she is Latina. She is very, very much Latina. But again, I believe there is the Mexican president is Jewish. Make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I'll just leave that out there and leave you to connect the dots on that one. Thank you very much to Patrick CC for that wonderful depiction there. Then we're going to have one more here, and then we're going to say goodnight, and that is from, let's get it in here. Yes. There we go. Yes, indeed. This is coming from, this is... do we do that? Do we do that? Do we do that? Do we do that? I got a choice to make here. I like the figures that he's coming out with. No. No. I'm gonna do this one because he did go that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, indeed. Snow White flop at the Snow White flop. Disney blames Rachel Ziegler. Yes, indeed. This is coming from Disparu? Yes, indeed, from Disparu, doing wonderful things on YouTube streets. I check out from time to time with regards to woke idealism in film and in TV productions, and he's very critical of that, and he is very, very critical of this film as well. So let's listen to Disparu doing wonderful things on YouTube streets. Like and subscribe to him. And let's get into this one. His take on Snow White.
So hard at the box office that even Paul Tassi had to admit it. It got $43 million, and there are very few ways to spin that, because if there was any, he'd be doing it. And in fact, he does try and spin it.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
But with Snow White getting devastating reviews, not just from the audience, but by the critics, there seems to be a change in tone. The media are now not exactly sticking up for Snow White, and insiders at Disney are coming forwards to talk about the problems she's been causing behind the scenes. Many of them. It's weird, they backed her before, everyone kept silent. They even shut out journalists from the red carpets to protect her. But then when the movie flopped, suddenly, it seems like they're distancing themselves from her and throwing her under the bus. This was called a bombshell report by the New York Post, and we are living through a time where parody websites can't keep up with factual reality. Disney are putting Rachel Zegler in the vault, and throwing it to the bottom of the ocean. I do find it funny that Paul Tassi once again said a bad movie, not Rachel Zegler, is to blame for Snow White bombing. Well, it doesn't seem like insiders at Disney agree with you.
I'm not about to let a man take credit for a woman's work.
Inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, death threats, beefed up security, and a social media guru to shut her up. As I'm sure you know, when she was marketing Snow White, she tweeted out, "Thank you for viewing the trailer," and then later started talking about a war in the Middle East, which her leading co-star is on the other side of, in a significant part of Hollywood. Attaching a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign about a kids' movie to your ideological warfare on the other side of the world that you have nothing to do with, it's not the smartest thing to do. The problem is, it gets worse. Not only did it amass 8.8 million views, 4 times the number of her actual marketing post, it shocked the studio that the star would commingle promotion with the statement. I'm not sure how shocked they should have been given her history.
Do you speak the language? Does it matter?
Does it matter?
Do you eat the food? Does it matter? Just became a conversation about how many different ways there are to be of Latin descent.
Given that she fell out with the West Side Story audience and has caused numerous problems throughout her entire career.
I'm a white Latina. I hold a lot of privilege. It falls on my shoulders to open up the doors for the people who, or they're disenfranchised.
Does it matter?
That said,
Oh, yes, it does. Absolutely does. And to such an effect that you are you are being thrown under the bus because of the success of, or lack of success there, to be frank, of this film. Yes, it does matter. It does matter that you keep your mouth shut, promote the film, smile, and try to make it a good production. Now, again, the storyline be damned. Yes, understood, but you had an obligation because you were paid millions of dollars to hold up your end of the bargain, and you clearly did not. Clearly did not. Let's continue.
It was a big enough problem for them that a Disney executive raised the studio's concerns with Zegler's team. Well, the film's producer flew to New York to speak with her directly. Already, you know she was trouble. Can you shut your gob doesn't require a plane flight to the other side of the country, does it? This is the kind of problem that could have been solved in a text. If you needed a longer conversation, do it over Zoom. If you have to fly to them in person to tell them off, it's because they're arguing with you. But once again, doesn't take much research into her past to find out that Rachel is difficult.
I don't think that could be possibly true. What do you think of...
We also have more about this story from Instagram, where people started asking Mark Platt's son about what happened. Your dad flew to New York City to reprimand a young actress. What does her age have to do with it? Are you being a stupid tart and you need a man to come along and tell you to get back in your box? You stupid cow. Yes. Yes, actually. Being a young...
You know what? I could have said it better myself. Yes, it goes against woke speak. It goes against, politically correct speech. But that's exactly what needed to be done in this instance. Yes. You needed to go to this actress and tell her to shut the fuck up. Because you clearly did not get the memo. We're paying you millions of dollars for you to sell the film. Not outlay your views on the storyline. Not outlay your views on Palestine. Not outlay your views on the election. Your job is to sell the film. You cannot sell the film. And so, yes, a person has to fly halfway across the country to tell you to shut the hell up. Let's continue.
Actress just means that you should know to shut your mouth and do as you're pissing told. You don't know anything about the business, dear. Are there any words on this? Because that's creepy as hell and uncalled for. I love how being creepy as hell is somebody telling you how you should behave because you don't know how to. We used to have standards where people would actually correct others for misbehaving, especially in a business environment. It is your boss's job to tell you how to behave when you're doing it wrong. Don't mess up my $270 million movie. Seems fair enough to me.
You've got one or two witnesses today.
People have a right to free speech, no? Shame on your father. If you work at Burger King, you don't have a right to stand there serving people going, don't eat here, it's crap. No, it's not how free speech works. Well, I suppose you are legally able...
Wonderful analogy there. It is indeed like an employee of Burger King, an employee of McDonald's, literally telling you, the food is crap, don't eat here, save your money. And you turn around saying, you're still paying me, right? Okay, yeah. You're still paying me, right? No. Don't eat here. The food is crap. This is a monolith to obesity and non-healthy living. But you guys still gotta pay me. Yes, fly across the country and do what you must in order to shut this little girl, because she is a little girl, she's behaving like a little spoiled child, to shut the heck up. There are rules when you are an employee of a company. You must adhere to said rules or you will be fired. But unfortunately, Disney had to still pay this woman millions of dollars to help sync their film. Make that make sense.
To say it, just don't expect them to hire you afterwards. But the best bit is, Jonah Platt replied, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand a 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she, it's a full stop, mate, signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. Don't pay Rachel Zegler multi-millions to do a movie. She's a nobody. This is why your budgets are insane. Stop throwing money at people. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, not for...
Now remember, this is a lady who was a feel-good story that came out of nowhere, was not part of the Hollywood machine, and made good, especially through Website Story, won an award, blah, 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 blah. So she's from outside the swamp. However, those within the swamp, they may as well taken somebody from within the swamp, because they would have realized that you have a production, you shut up and you let it get done. And you get it done. You're an employee at the end of the day. You're not an outspoken advocate who's allowed to share your views on any sort of subject and not be reprimanded in the process. Silly nonsense. Come on back here on Talk Live on IG. Yes, we finally got our IG back, and we're gonna finish up the story here with Disparu on Snow White, and yes, Snow White, so woke now, so broke, ladies and gentlemen. So come on back. We're gonna finish up this hour. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. See you soon. And we're back here on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. And let's finish up with what Disparu has to say here. Let's see if there's any other comments out there and available. Let's see here. Yes, indeed. All right. No, we're good for that at the moment. Oh, sorry. The name Ziegler has Jewish roots. When we get into the etiology. Indeed. You're right. We do have Jewish roots there. Thank you very much for joining me. We're back on Talk Live. We have a comment from Lana BK. The name Ziegler has Jewish roots. Also, sounds like Jonah Pratt was raised right. The comment was fire. RZ is the personification of Rachel Ziegler's personification of all that is wrong with Gen Alpha. Yes. A lot of pretension, a lot of arrogance, a lot of, how shall I say, sassiness. It is a sassy age. And to be fair, Frank, for you to just be on this world for 20 years and think that you know it all and you should be listened to at every beck and call, and that you could change the world through a tweet, through a statement, through a panning of a film, my dear, you know what? You deserve to be panned. Absolutely. Let's get back into this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live.
For Rachel. No, she doesn't believe in accountability or responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Responsibility. The universe provides for her. Remember.
Keep manifesting, ladies.
Her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech doesn't mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, at the risk of all the colleagues, crew, and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism, well, I mean, Rachel's spoken about that herself.
How often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
Is not something to be coddled or encouraged. Generally, not destroying your place of employment is just common sense. It's a standard thing that you don't crap where you eat. But if the universe is providing your roles for you, if you're manifesting your career...
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it...
Echo! Back to you. Then you don't feel...
And she was flat. She was very flat on that last note, just to let you know. Let's go.
Like you owe those people anything. It was you manifesting it. It was the universe providing.
Your voice will carry through and bring that dream to you.
The audience, they have no control over you. They're not providing you anything. Your bosses, they're just a stepping stone into your next place in the universe.
Keep manifesting, ladies.
But what's interesting is the sheer fact that he's talking about this in the first place. Up until this point, all the people in the movie have been locked down. Nobody spoke about it. We shut down journalists on the red carpet so that nobody could talk. And as soon as the movie flops, complete disaster. It's like a curtain was lifted and everyone was suddenly like, we can talk now. We've declassified the information. The gags have been removed. and suddenly we can say what we really thought. And they want you to know who's responsible for the failure of this movie. Her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. And that's not even the worst consequence of Rachel not being able to control her mouth. Because it says that originally her relationship with Disney started to unravel during the West Side Story award season, and continued as she trashed the original Snow White. But despite the producer flying to her to speak to her personally, I would love to know how much he coddled her in that conversation, or whether he just laid out the facts.
Exactly what you needed, the lost king who could ride you to victory.
I have a feeling the way he would approach that situation would be very different than what I would say.
My dear, you should learn to be admired in silence.
It might be in the age of elevated egos and no money. Hollywood should stop coddling the actors and actresses as if they're something special, and instead educate them that they can be easily replaced. Maybe it's time for...
You know, I'm paraphrasing here, but there's an old Latin saying that states that it's better to be seen than heard, especially with women, especially with beautiful women. It's better to be seen as beautiful than heard from yourself, because you do more damage by being heard than being seen. Rachel Zegler, beautiful girl, should have just kept her mouth closed, promote the film, smile, and earn your money. But again, she never did get the employee handbook. Let's continue.
A few more of these conversations, a bit more like the thick of it.
Get her back here right now, so I can luffer her to death.
And I think it was probably coddling because, she stood her ground and the post remained. Behind the scenes, though, death threats emerged towards Gal Gadot. These threats spiked, and Disney had to pay for additional security for the mother of four. Did Zegler do anything about... No. Didn't remove the post, but maybe all the rumors that they've fallen out have something to do with this. You put my life in danger because you can't control your gob is a pretty good reason not to like somebody. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions, or didn't care. You only have the excuse of I don't understand until somebody explains it to you. Presumably, during this flight to speak to her in person, those repercussions were explained to her. At that point, you do understand, you're just ignoring them. The excuse of I don't know lasts right up until somebody tells you. As far as that meant for the film, for Gal, or for anyone. I would guess she fully understood the repercussions. She's seen those repercussions firsthand. She's helped them. She's helped cause them. When Gina Carano was going through all the trouble with Disney, she was more than happy to jump on that bandwagon. Do not make fun of words. Words are not a joke. Words are validating. Words are cool. Put your words in your bio. I wear my words on a button sometimes. Having about 5 IQ probably forgets. Then again, if you go out dressed like the Allure interview, people genuinely do need to know. I have no idea what that's meant to be. Thank you for putting it on a button. I wouldn't believe the button, but at least I'd know in theory. Likely the only person who sews her name into the back of her shirt, not in case she loses it, but so she can remember who she is. Words are a good thing. Bye! It's a fun time to remind you all to love Pedro Pascal. See, she's got bad taste all around. When she's jumped in on cancellation campaigns before, I think she knows the repercussions. It does seem like the media have got the throw her under the bus green light, though, when we're posting things like this. We're slagging her off behind the scenes, we're dropping all the information, and then reminding you of, her attacking the majority of the population of America when she posted F the Orange Man and may his supporters never know peace. Given that the star was signaling to more than half the potential audience, we know that from Deadline's numbers of who went to see the cinema, the potential audience of an already troubled film plagued by costly reshoots. This caused Platt to make the case again. We have to repeatedly go back to a silly cow. Can't you just shut up? For once in your life, can you close your mouth? If you'd employed somebody who actually liked Snow White, she would have realised, yes, actually, would have been, okay, no problem. Would you like me to clean and make you a sandwich, sir?
And if you let me stay, I'll keep house for you. Wash and sew and sweep and cook, and I'll use the broom.
There are...
You know what? And Snow White said it best. She washed, she cooked, she cleaned, and she'd even used the broom. Guess who that describes? That describes a trad, conservative wife. And you wanted them to, how should I say it? Never know peace. The same audience that you are asking to see your film, you wish them to know no peace. You can't make this stuff up. You literally can't. Wow. This is a woman who clearly can't see the forest for the trees and realize who her core audience is. Conservative families. One made of a husband, a wife, and children. Those who voted for Donald Trump, no distance. Or you could say those who are who are centrist themselves, who may just happen to be conservative, not progressive Democrats, if you believe in American politics. Well done. You've ostracized your fan base. Unbelievable.
Numerous benefits for hiring actually nice people on the set. After a back and forth, tire. If anyone has deserved his money, it's Mark Platt. You spent years, hundreds of millions of dollars trying to wrangle Rachel Zegler into some kind of image of like media acceptance. Please, can we try and fake that you know what you're doing? Look, I know you're entitled, but can you just pretend that you're not? So after an argument, is basically what that means, she began working with a social media guru that Disney had to pay for to vet any of her posts. I want that job. That job would have been amazing. I mean, yes, you do have to talk to Rachel Zegler, but only one word. No. No. It's like dealing with a naughty dog. Stop it. Down. Sit.
Indeed, she had to be a handler had to be hired for her to not get on social media, to literally don't mess things up. She needed a babysitter. A 20-year-old who needs a babysitter. Especially that during that time of life, you'll see how that is so literally ironic. Now let's just think about that. Let's continue.
That is the easiest social media guru job in the world. No. In fact, their biggest mistake was whatever the hell this was. This Allure article was a mistake. Disney declined to comment. Zegler did not respond to a request for comment, probably because a social media guru intercepted it. Now, the film's opening weekend, $87 million. Put this into perspective, that is $34 million less than Joker Folie à Deux, but with a bigger budget by $70 million. And Joker 2 failed so hard, they started taking the piss out of it at the Oscars. Joker 2 became a laughingstock in Hollywood. So if Snow White is an even bigger flop, Rachel's cards might be marked. You can't say a film costing this much making $50 million is okay. The maths doesn't work. It should have been $1 billion movie if it was an entirely different movie. Rachel hurt the movie. She didn't harm $1 billion of it though. For it to be $1 billion movie, you would have had to have remade the original movie, not whatever your weird wet dream was. But the Disney Zegler standoffs underscore the challenge of Hollywood studios face of attempting to rein in stars who caught controversy on social media. You don't have to rein them in. Don't hire them. There aren't names in Hollywood that are so big you have to hire them anymore. If their views don't align with the audience, don't hire them. I mean, Mark Ruffalo is easily in this category. He's courting controversy all the time on social media, and yet Disney will keep casting him as Hulk, who's just in Mickey 17, where the entire movie was courting controversy politically. These challenges are just self-created inside Hollywood. You don't have to have these problems, you choose to, because you fill your ranks with people who agree with the celebrities who are spouting this, so they don't see a problem.
So again, you know what? It would have been best to hire a white person in this role, a conservative white person, Trump supporter in this role. Yes, because Disney would have earned money. They would have made a whole serious amount of bank with that money. Because you know what? They would have brought out an audience, the likes of the election, to support this film, and they would have made their money back. They would have made their money back tenfold. In this instance, yes, sometimes it's okay to be, slightly, unwoke in this instance. A little racist, understood. You get a white person in the role, fine. But you know what? You'll make your money back. It's a controversial take, but you'll make your money back, definitely. Because you're catering to your audience. That's what they want to see. Give them what they want. Give them what they want. Give the people what they want. They want Snow White. Let them have a Snow White. Especially in this instance. Absolutely have a Snow White. Have at a Snow White. Now again, Rachel Zegler is, whose background is a little questionable. Do your own research. But, she may say she's Latina, but, in certain circumstances, sometimes simple's always best. Sometimes you just got to go with the gut and say, you know what? White people saw this audience in 1937. Let's see if we can have white people see this in 2025. With dwarves. Let's continue.
Problem with the comments. And if they don't see a problem with the comments, how are they supposed to vet them? So Godot commented, but she limited her comments and didn't mix that with the promotion of the film. Meanwhile, Zegler, she'd already strained nerves at the studio when she complained that she wasn't invited to the Oscars. And remember, getting invited to the Oscars is more than just promotion, it's more than ego and a party. At the 22 Oscars, you also got given a $140,000 gift bag. So that invite is important. That invite is you getting paid $140,000 in a day. That's a higher rate of earning than she would have got for Snow White itself. But she didn't get invited to the Oscars because Rachel Zegler is a nobody, and so why would she? And yet, she took to social media to complain. She leveraged her audience against her employers, against the brand of the movies she was in. She was giving them bad publicity for her own personal gain. Sean Bailey, the then president of Walt Disney, declined to cut her loose for the telecast, and so after Zegler aired her grievances publicly, they had to provide her a ticket, even though she wasn't nominated.
And stop there for a second. You mean to tell me you speak ill of your employer, they don't invite you to the biggest party of the year because you did so, you complain, and for said complaints and for said engineering of your fan base, I wouldn't say engineering, incitement of your fan base in order to get you on the show, you get on the show, you get paid $140,000 for an appearance fee, get all the swag you want, and wait for it, you get this.
I never thought that I would be here 6 days ago. We did it.
And in fact, it went beyond a ticket. She presented an award.
Dreams really can come true pretty fast, too.
She was even speaking on the red carpet about how important it was for people like her to be in Hollywood.
This is a story of representation, and it matters.
Yes. The story of representation, personal gain. It's important that you hire tick boxes because I am one and that means money. Once again, your morality is tied to my bank balance. The richer you make me, the more moral you are. If anyone
If that's not a real statement, I don't know what is. Well said, Disparu. Quote that, print that. Put that in lights. Let's go.
I don't see that as a grift. I think you're a lost cause.
Just means that our stories are worth telling, and I think the success review-wise of our film shows that our stories are worth telling.
All of that.
Especially if those stories make me rich. Let's go.
Crapped on the original movie, saying that the prince literally stalks her, which begs the question if she even saw the movie. There is no reading of the movie where he stalks her. That can only be an inherited opinion from somebody else that told you it, and you never watched the movie to see. It just seems like she repeated essentially a lie that somebody else told her. One top agent said that was the moment they allowed Zegler to control the narrative. The first time she shoots her mouth off, you nip it in the bud. Hire her. Too late if you already hired her, but the first time she runs a mouth in West Side Story at the audience, that's when her career should have been nipped in the bud.
Does it matter?
Instead, the studio said nothing. As time went on, Disney became increasingly loath to weigh in on anyone's speech, considering they were being sued by Gina Carano. Sounds a little unbelievable to me. Again, one of the reasons why I think this comes from the studio, why this is now the allowable topic you're allowed to talk about. And Disney are like, well, obviously, we didn't want to interrupt her free speech. Gina Carano proves you don't care about your actor's free speech. But here's a handy excuse to use on other people when you're like, well, because of this, we don't want to do it anymore. They're essentially using Gina Carano supporters' morality against them. But you don't get to, suddenly inherit morality. It's like, oh, I suddenly care about people's free speech all of a sudden. I didn't before, but I do now. To the point where it will sink a $270 million movie? No. In my opinion, I'd suggest the reason they didn't act is because the people at Disney agreed with what Rachel was saying, but disagreed with what Gina did. It isn't about free speech, it's about one allowed opinion. We will reward our friends and punish our enemies. They say all press is good press. Fire anyone that says that. It's not true. It's obviously not true. If you spend 2 seconds thinking about it, it's not true. For it to be true, it requires a larger audience to exist that don't know about what you're doing, that agree with the bad press. So the bad press has to be good to a huge audience. There has to be a different side of the argument. Snow White pissed everybody off. I mean, look at this.
This king, as benevolent as he was still a colonizer.
They were unabashedly. I don't know who they is, but fire them. Too much negative controversy surrounded the film for years. That's because Rachel kept opening her mouth. That's your problem. The reviews were subpar. There was no bad blood between the two Snow White leads, despite press reports to the contrary. If you're ruining the marketing for the movie, and at the same time putting my life at danger and the lives of my 4 children to the point where I had to have extra security paid for, I don't believe that wouldn't influence my opinion of you. Things got awkward during the run-up to release. Zegler referring to Godot as a professional pageant queen. At the premiere, the 2 stars kept mostly apart. The El Capitan Theatre, Zegler sat 2 rows ahead of Godot and her family. That might have been for security. Hey, if you put my life at danger, there's gonna be me, security, you. That takes 2 rows. I want armed guards between me and Rachel Zegler at all times. By that point, Disney had given up hope that the film could overcome the backlash, and it was ass. Rachel was 100% a problem with the movie, 100% a problem with the marketing, and caused a lot of drama. But the movie was still crap. Disney might be trying to throw Rachel under the bus and distance himself from, oh, look, you're not going to get work from us again. It may be a red flag to other potential studios of, you need to be really careful. After how much money she cost us, she will do the same to you. This might be a sign from the insiders that she's essentially fair game now, and that all the dirt from the behind the scenes will be coming to the forefront. But all that is removed from the movie. The movie itself was still crap. The people that created it, created the script, created the themes, especially the themes and the songs. They all have their own problems in the movie. The messaging of your movie that you're trying to teach kids is awful. This is not a family-friendly movie for that very reason. Well, not unless you want your kids to grow up like Rachel. Insufferable twat. You do not want to teach your...
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You're right. This movie's on a roll here. But yes, I mean, but from what he was saying, yeah, it's right. The movie's still a pile of dog poop. To be fair, it's not a film that anybody should waste their time to go see, because the storytelling was well, non-legendary to say the least. And Rachel was, she sunk it with regard to her actions. But maybe the film could have still made a bit of money if it was just told in the right way, in the way that it was always intended. And even if there were some storyline, some writing mistakes, some casting mistakes, and other mistakes, you could have still made a bit of money. However, Rachel put paid to that as soon as she opened her mouth. Let's continue.
Children manifesting, unless you want them to be complete losers, especially if they're blokes. They can't believe in manifesting. They have to believe that they're going to have to work at their life to get somewhere, because they will never get a free ride in anything. They will
get back to that. I want this to play out.
Unless you want them to be complete losers, especially if they're blokes. They can't believe in manifesting. They have to believe that they're going to have to work at their life to get somewhere, because they will never get a free ride in anything. They will have to rely on their own competence. But I do find it funny that when Variety posted these kind of tweets, it seemed like somebody really wanted people to know the problems that Rachel was causing behind the scenes as well as publicly. Normally for a movie, they would have attacked the audience and called the audience bigots. This is, nah, it was her fault, wasn't it? Yeah, we agree with you folks. I mean, remember what she was like with The Little Mermaid?
They are probably just having a really hard day.
Yes.
And I am putting out a movie.
Stay graceful and ignore the hate. Hello.
Well, maybe not anymore, eh? Instead, we'll just be going back to theatre. You just turn up and sing for a bit. It doesn't really require you to interact with the audience. Also, the audience for musical theatre probably far more...
Yeah, you heard that right. She's appearing at as Evita, as Eva Peron in Evita at the London Palladium. Yes, indeed. She's doing musicals now. Such is the demise of her career. She could have been doing blockbusters to this day, but however, well, she was cast in the next... I think she was cast in the next Avengers film. But anyways, that'll be short-lived. She's now cast as she's appearing as Eva Peron in Evita now. Because all you have to do is mess up your lines. And there's no propaganda behind that. So there you go. You can't ruin a multi-million-dollar production now, can you?
Likely to agree with your statement than, mass media of normal people. But this Variety article, the bombshell report, has gone far and wide across all your mainstream news from every different side. And I think that was the point, because when a movie flops this hard, there really is no recovering it. You might as well be honest, and you're gonna need a scapegoat to blame. If it's not one of the actresses causing the problems, it's one of the executives. When you lose hundreds of millions of dollars, somebody needs to get fired. And it seems like in this case, Disney has decided who that's going to be. For better or worse, trial by media seems to be the...
Yes, indeed. As you can see by the headlines, Disney blaming Rachel Zegler for Snow White disaster. Yeah. It's on her shoulders. She is the main culprit in sinking a multi-million-dollar production that is one of Disney's greatest works. See what one person can do who's single, independent, and wants to write her own story? Oh, you wrote your own story, all right. The story of the Titanic. Let's continue.
Court for this one. And Disney don't just have a nigh on infinite supply of ammunition to say from all the behind-the-scenes problems, but they've got an audience that already agrees with them. They already thought there was the problem on their own. This is just Disney announcing that, yeah, you guys were right, which in this business is very rare for a company to admit. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below.
Thank you very much, Disparu. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I had to just use that take there lastly, and fantastic work there by Disparu. We're going to end it there, ladies and gentlemen, as it is Friday night. But let me just go on the full cam to finish up the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it shows what one person can do. One single-minded, opinionated, strong, independent, not need a man, woman can do in order to sink a multi-million-dollar film, piss off so many people around it, force a huge studio to take a massive dump, and a film that could do no wrong. It was a failure of indeed Titanic proportions here. There's make no mistake about it. This was supposed to be a spring/summertime classic, huge film. Yes, the studio could take some blame for its promotion, but its ultimate biggest mistake was buying into a woman who was indeed narcissistic. And they say the women are not. They say the men are. Oh well. Guess this is one to chalk up for the men. Anyways, thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Talk Live. We're gonna leave it right there. I have to run, off to see the Wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, which is my dad, for a bit of drink and cheer. But I thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. It is hoped that Ms. Gal Gadot can be her safety is not in question, and Rachel Zegler learns a very huge lesson from this film, and that is you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Once you have a huge production that's on your doorstep, you don't do your utmost to upset it, and that's exactly what you did here. And the world and the studio, Disney, says as much. So, a lesson on how to sink a huge production here. And this will be, told in many dramatic arts and film studies to come. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live. I'll let you guys get to your weekend. Have a great weekend. Arsenal playing tomorrow, so I'm going to be up early for that. And, and then I have the weekend with the girlfriend. So, again, thank you very much for joining me at Talk Talk Live. We're going to leave it right there. And I appreciate you joining me here. And I wish you all adieu and have a great weekend. And, if you wish to go out and see a film, I know there are a few seats available at Snow White. And I say good night from Toronto. And thank you very much for joining me here on Talk Talk Live. We'll be back next week for another line of shows, so don't miss out on those. A few heady topics are upcoming, and